when the song came on, I thought, now listen to that. This is a tune that's catchy, that's well written, sung well, relatively contemporary, not necessarily from classic rock days. And if you were to hear this 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you'll still enjoy it, right? But none of the stuff that I hear at the gym, I'm thinking, why would I want to listen to this? And the second thing is, who the hell puts this shit out? Why would they think that this was actually had any redeeming quality, right? I mean,
says yes to it. Which producer?
I understand that even great bands had to have fillers, but it's like all fillers. It's unbelievable. It's insane. Was this recording? If it was, just included. Okay, it's a record. It's right into your camera. Okay. All right, so we're rolling into this. So welcome to one of our first videos this year. My God, it's been a while since we put one out. And I sincerely apologize. It's just been very busy for me. And Mike, by the way, is behind the camera. Welcome back, Mike. Mike has come back to join us after his nice long trip in Brazil, which he says wasn't all that enjoyable. But, I beg to differ. I want to go to Brazil and see for myself. Anyway, we're recording this today where it's beautiful outside, but it's minus 14 degrees Celsius. What's that? Almost 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It's insanely cold. Thank God there's no wind. Anyway, I thought I'd do a couple of videos today. This one is Ask Me Anything. I haven't done this in quite a while, and I constantly get emails and questions. Sometimes these questions are, in fact, most of the time, they're very specific about what do you think of this product or that product, and so on and so forth. Now, I've covered this multiple times, but I'll just say this. I generally do not give advice, specific information on products that we don't represent. The simple answer is because, number one, because we don't represent it, I don't have very deep experience and knowledge of that product that you're probably asking about. And so it's not fair for me to just say, here's the generic answer. I don't think that's fair. And then the other thing is this, if I don't represent it, if I happen not to like it, it will come across to some people as, oh, sour grapes. You don't like it, therefore why the hell would you say good things about it? I'll come to that point a little bit later in this video because, in fact, I do have lots of products that I like that I don't represent. Anyway, so what I did was I picked 5 questions that sort of broadly represent the questions that I get asked quite a bit. So, first one. This came about 2 months ago. Somebody emailed me out of the blue and said, really enjoy your videos. You've talked quite a bit about how you choose lines to represent. You've never talked about how a line gets, how you drop a line. And I thought, now that's very interesting. So let me cover that. We've recently had to part ways with a couple of manufacturers. I won't name them, but it made me think about why I chose to part ways. So oftentimes it's when, so I mentioned, I should say, in the past, how I choose lines. I have a very strict criteria about what I'm looking for objectively, not sonically yet, just objectively. So things like, is the company stable? Do they have a good service network? Are the products reliable? Do they have strong competitive advantages? Like, for example, we recently looked at a speaker line where the reputation is they have incredible output, bass, etc., and the speakers are very small. And so we took some samples in to check them out. Or let's say I'm really intrigued by electrostatic speakers and some company comes out with a new electrostatic panel and I'm really intrigued by it. I'll go through, certain things, and one of the questions will be reliability. Are they well funded? All these kinds of things. And then if objectively I feel like, okay, I've answered almost all of my concerns in a positive, then I'll try to get samples either from the manufacturer or I'll buy them and then check them out and see if I like them. And if everything looks really, really good and there's that certain X factor that makes me really want to go forward, then we will usually proceed. Now, so how do we part ways? Sometimes it's as simple as, well, we just can't sell it. I'll tell you an interesting story. Way back. Focal, back then was called JM Lab, was being brought into Canada by one of my friends. And we buy a lot of stuff from him. And he said, Adrian, there's this new product called JM Labs. We're bringing it in. I would love for you to be a dealer. And I had known about JM Lab because their raw drivers at the time were getting quite popular, and my cousin in Singapore had become a distributor, and so he had told me good things about it. So I said, sure, let's bring some products in. And we brought it in, and we marketed the heck out of it. We would write these quarterly newsletters and promote them to everybody and demonstrate it and so on. And no matter what we did, we couldn't give them away. I mean, we literally couldn't give them away. Clients would come in and say, yeah, but I want to buy BMW. Yeah, but, I'd rather buy Canadian products. And back then, Canadian products were very popular. We couldn't do anything with it. So after about 3-4 years, we finally gave up and said, we can't do anything. And then about 2-3 years later, they rebranded, called themselves Focal, came out with a top-of-the-line series called the Utopia, and they took off. So it's like the old story about how there's this gold miner who was digging oil. I think he was an oil miner, and had this big plot of land and just kept digging and found no oil, no gold, whatever it was, and finally sold the piece of land. And then the next person who bought it, something like 50 feet away, found a gusher and made all this money. So maybe that's what it is, and that's okay. You have, thankfully we've had many more successes than we've had failures. So that's one example of why we might part ways. Other times it could be a directional difference. Manufacturer decides to change directions, and it is so significantly different than what we want and like that we have no choice but to part ways. Other times it could be a dispute. We've had that before where we cannot resolve our differences with the manufacturer, and then we part ways. This is all, it happens, and we're human beings, and sometimes we just agree to disagree, and that's okay. There have been times where prices have gone through the roof for whatever reason, and the product hasn't really changed all that much. In some cases, they haven't changed at all, but the prices have gone through the roof. Well, it loses its value and competitive advantage at that point, and if we feel very strongly about it and we don't think that the manufacturer is going to do anything that will bring things back in line, we may have to part ways. At the end of the day, my responsibility, if you will call it that, is to you, our client. It's really important to me that we represent the very best values and the very best overall solution that we can think of. And if I don't feel that we can do that, then I'm just not interested. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, question number 2. I realize you can't carry everything. Are there lines you wish you could represent? Now, this is actually quite a good question. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier about not commenting about lines that we don't carry. There are lots of great lines out there. Now, I cannot obviously know in depth every good line that's out there. It just can't. One, I just don't have the time, and two, I will only do really deep dives into something that somehow catches my eye or my attention. But in general, there are very good lines. Audio research as an example. They've been around forever, as much longer than I've been in this industry, which is a lot. I remember way back when I used to work at an audio store. We carried audio research, and I really enjoyed what the products were. The SP11 preamplifier, still to this day, legend. The SP9 was their first affordable hybrid tube preamplifier. Wonderful sounding preamplifier. Their amps, the M100s, very good sounding amps. They've certainly had their hits and misses. Every company has. But overall, a very good company. And now under new ownership, I believe quite possibly even better because I know Val. Val's a good friend of mine. I know him. I know he is relentless when it comes to pursuit of quality, and thankfully they have a lot of money, the consortium that owns Audio Research, and so I look forward to knowing more about the company. Benchmark, here's another brand. I found out about Benchmark many, many years ago. Stereophile did a review on one of their products and I was intrigued by it. Then I think it was, I can't remember, it was this DAC maybe that came through my hands. I listened to it and it was really, really good. It was not crazy money. That's another brand that we don't carry, but I have a good reason to believe it's very good. Past Labs, another good, stalwart, been around a long time company. Great products, appears to be really good value, well made. Friends of mine, clients of mine who own it, swear by it. Wonderful. Luxman. This is a in-store joke. We don't carry Luxman, we carry AccuFace. So when friends / clients of mine come in and we know they have Luxman, we always take the time to jab at them and go, yeah, it would sound better if you only had, whatever it is that we carry. And they know it's all in good fun. Why don't we carry Luxman? Well, years ago when Luxman was reborn, quote unquote, into North America, we were actually quite interested. But at the time, more than half of their products were made in China, and the agent at the time even warned me that that stuff wasn't all that good and they had reliability issues and so on. And so I just took a pass. Now, when things changed over, maybe I could have looked at it again, but by then we had moved on, and so I didn't. And those of you who own Luxman and you like it, good for you. I've heard very, very good things about it. Electrocompagnie, another wonderful brand. Many, many decades ago, I had we were toying with the idea of being a dealer for it, just never did it for some reason. But I hear it's a very, very good product. And then finally, Jadi. I have a soft spot in my heart for Jadi. I've owned Jadi. When they're good, they're unbelievable, like truly unbelievably. There's just a magic in some of their products, the JA200s, the JA80s, the JA30s, my God. I love their amps more so than their preamps. Now, that's not to say that the new stuff is like that. I don't know. But in my experience of the earlier stuff, I loved their amplifier. It's a beauty to it that I just can't put in words. But anyway, that's another brand. DAC streamers, DCS, I've had some experience with it. They're very good. EMM Labs, Canadian, wonderful product. Holo Audio, I've heard good things. I don't know anything about the product. Hi-Fi Rose, I've certainly had some go through us. They're well made, good quality, represent very good value. Speakers like Martin, MBL. MBL is, again, there's a tug of love in my heart for it because I remember the first time I heard it at a show many, many, many years ago. Omnidirectional speakers that didn't matter where you were. They had a huge sound stage. There's just a big, ginormous stage. I ended up buying a couple of pairs and found out that, boy, there are other things that I didn't quite like about it, but there are things that I really loved about it, and so you've got that thing happening with that. Vivid speakers, love the sound, don't like the looks, but that's just me. You may like it, but every time I see a Vivid speaker, it reminds me of that creature in The Fifth Element, that blue creature with that thing, the hair or the thing that goes behind the head, reminds me of that. That's what Vivids look like to me, and it sort of weirds me out. Stenheim speakers. First time I heard Stenheim was at a Munich hi-fi show many, many years ago. I walked in and my friend Vince from MSB was there, and so I came in to say hi to him. He said, "You got to hear these speakers." I sat down and wow, what a tonally neutral sounding speaker, but without being white or dry or bright or thin. It was just a really good neutral sounding speaker. Unfortunately, again, we've got so many great speakers, I just don't see how we can bring it in, but a lot of respect for it. All right, so hopefully that answers your questions about what other brands. There's lots. Just, these are the ones that came to my mind right away. Okay, question number 3. I see so much controversy about Wilson Audio. Many think they are overrated while others swear by them. Do you really love Wilson Audio products or simply sell them because they are popular? Okay, the short answer is I absolutely love Wilson Audio. Mike is behind the camera and he's nodding his head. Now, I get that some people don't like it. Ours is a subjective industry. So there will be products that people will absolutely love and there'll be products that other people will not like. It's just how it works. I've loved Wilson since the very first time I heard them, and I bought a pair when I really couldn't afford it. I was about 18 or 19 years old and I bought the original Watts, the W-A-T-T. And ever since then I've been a huge fan. Something inherently about the speakers just drew me in. Back then it was just this undeniable speak to truth kind of sound. It was detailed, it imaged like you wouldn't believe, it was fast like an electrostatic speaker. It readily showed you how great your recordings were or how bad they were at the time. That's what I wanted. What's interesting is that as time has gone by, the manufacturer has evolved. So have we. I mean, we're human beings. We all evolve. Also, parts have gotten better. Associated components have gotten better. So back then, David Wilson's whole reason for the speaker was to design a pair of monitors that he could physically take to the site where he was doing his recordings. He was a huge fanatic of recording live music, and he needed speakers that could tell him what his microphones were doing. And so he designed the Wilson Watts. And they weren't designed to beautify a recording. They were designed almost like a microscope, and they did exactly that. And for many, many years from there, the speakers did that. And then ultimately, as the company evolved, the speakers became perhaps more organic, they made the music sound more beautiful, but at the same time, they still paid homage to the important tenets of Wilson Audio, which is authenticity. It still had to sound like the instrument sounds. A piano should always sound like a piano. The micro and macro dynamics, what David Wilson calls dynamic expression, harmonic richness, sound staging and imaging, all those audiophile buzzwords, they're all there in spades. And for me, I really love what Wilson does and what they do so well. You may not, and it may be because you prefer a different kind of sound, and that's okay too. But I am a huge fan. Well, one other thing about Wilson Audio. Whether or not you like the sound, the one thing I will say from an objective standpoint, having visited the factory multiple times, having seen how their products are made up close, and having touched and sold literally thousands of products in my career, Wilson Audio products are built to an incredibly high standard. We've never received a product that was damaged. We've never received a product that was not virtually perfect, scratches, nothing like that. I can't say that about any other company. No fingerprints. It's always flawless when it leaves the factory. And that says a lot about a company where virtually every part of it is made by hand. Okay, question number 4. I'm seriously thinking about getting into the industry as a dealer. What are some things that I should be aware of? And Mike is laughing. First, make sure you ask your wife or your significant other and say, I'm seriously thinking about being an audio dealer. I'd like you to slap me. Okay? Now, after she slaps you, if you still feel the same way, tell her, babe, slap me even harder. Okay? And if you still feel that way after 2 big slaps, first question you ask yourself is, why do you want to do this? It's really important that you discover your why. The what's, the how's, the when's, the where's, those are logistical questions that you can figure out. But why will keep you going when things get tough. And things will get tough. Any small business, any business that you open up, you will go through tough periods. The audio industry is a very small niche. If you think you're going to get rich doing this, you have much better options for getting rich doing other businesses. This is not one of the better ones, if I can say that. So ask yourself why you want to do this. And if it's a really good reason, if it's a reason that compels you, that inspires you, that makes you want to work 60, 80 hours a day for a very long time, okay, that's the first hurdle that you've managed to deal with. Then, as I said, be prepared to put in a lot of hours. The other thing you have to be aware of is that as a dealer, any kind of dealer, but specifically in the audio industry, it's a service business. You have to be available when the clients are available. In other words, if a client says, I'd like to come in and see you on a Sunday, and you're usually closed on a Sunday, in the beginning at least, for the first few years, you probably want to be available for that client because you want to develop your reputation and you want as many clients who are qualified as possible to come and talk to you, okay? So, number 3, read as many books on business as you possibly can on the various aspects of business like marketing, finance, accounting, biographies. I used to love reading biographies, I still do, of successful entrepreneurs and all the challenges they faced and how they overcame it and how they finally succeeded. So read as much as you can about all these different aspects of business because business is not just about the one thing or two things. There are a lot of aspects about business. Write a comprehensive business plan. This is important. Right at the very beginning, the person who helped inspire me, Brian, said to me, make sure you have a business plan and work on your plan, because if you don't work on your plan, you plan to fail. And I never forgot that. So work on your business plan. The whys you want to do this, how you want to do this, where you're going to get the financing from, who are going to be your support team, for example. Are you good in accounting? If not, you're going to have to get somebody who will do bookkeeping for you. And don't just say, okay, my wife will do it or my significant other. What if they're no good at it, right? These are the things that you have to ask. What do you do with banking? Do you have enough money to carry you through many, many months of very bad times? Because your cost doesn't stop when you don't have good times. And so on. So you have to think about all these things. Make sure you have a strong team. You need somebody to help you with marketing. Marketing is crucial. Just because you have good lines and you have a great personality and you have a true desire to help somebody doesn't mean anybody in the world knows you exist. You need to have an ability to let people know that you exist and more importantly, why they should listen to you and why they should come see you. So marketing, very important. And then if you plan to get bigger, you need sales team. Not so easy today to find people to help you in this industry. So you need to think about that. And then finally, vendors. You need to start talking to the people that you want to represent and find out whether or not they will talk with you. Very early on, most of the vendors I reached out to absolutely had no interest in talking to us. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story about a vendor. We had made an appointment to go see this vendor at CES, and the person said, okay, sure, come at 12 o'clock. We came at 12, and the person said, I'm so sorry, my meeting's running late, can I see you tomorrow? I said, okay. Came back the next day, and the person said, oh, you are 5 minutes late, I had to take another appointment. And it was much later when I realized the guy was basically blowing me off. He didn't have the balls to tell me, listen, we can't do business with you. You know, you are nobody, you just started, we have all these other dealers, we can't anger them, so we just can't do business with you. Should have just said that to me. And instead, you know, made us do all this run around, chase him from here to their warehouse and back and forth. Anyway, I just want to go. Point is, find out a list, make a list of the vendors you'd like to represent, talk with them, make your case, see if they feel the same way, and then go from there. And then after all of that, after you've developed your business plan and you feel sure that you can execute, and there's a better than even chance that you will succeed, go back to your significant other and say, slap me again. And hopefully that will wake you up and say, okay, you know what, maybe I should go back to my government job. Fifth question, last one. One of the most common questions I get is about Daniel Hertz. I get emails about Daniel Hertz all the time. It's incredible how the company went from relative obscurity a couple of years ago to the kind of emails I get now. So this particular question, I'm intrigued by Daniel Hertz. Online reviews by owners and reviewers seem to say that this is an incredible line. You carry a lot of very high-end products that compete with Daniel Hertz. Is it really that good? Can you share any concerns? All right, yes, I really love the line, but here are the pros and cons. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who don't know, Daniel Hertz is a company started by Mark Levinson, the man. Many of you will know the brand Mark Levinson, but he hasn't been associated with the company since the late 70s or the early 80s. He started Daniel Hertz, I think, around 2006, 2008, thereabouts. The current lineup is representative of the latest thinking, ideas that he's had for many, many years and finally came to fruition. He's got two electronic pieces. Both are integrated amplifiers. The first one is called the Maria 350. The other one's called the Maria 800. Both have preamps, amps built in, DACs. It's all in one chip, and the chip does all the heavy lifting. Chip is called Mighty Cat. And anyway, you can find out more either in previous videos or online. Ever since I've known Mark, he's always had this belief that it should be a complete and total system solution. Certainly you're welcome to buy other people's speakers or buy his speakers and buy somebody else's amplifiers and so on. But he has always believed from the earliest that I knew of him that it should be a total system solution. This way, the manufacturer is able to optimize every single aspect of the performance for you, the potential consumer. What I love about, for example, the amplifier, it's small, it's efficient, it has everything built in, so you don't have to buy anything else. You just hook up the speaker wire, which is also included, and away you go. And yet, every aspect of it is at a very high level. So you don't need to buy this and worry about whether or not it'll match that from another brand, and what if it doesn't? You've just spent a lot of money, you'll switch that out and so on. Everything is combined in one chassis. The sound universally is exceptional. For me, I love what I hear out of Daniel Hertz. A good friend of mine recently borrowed the Daniel Hertz Maria integrated amp, and he has, I won't say the brand, some incredibly high-end brands. And he was very curious about Daniel Hertz, borrowed it, brought it back, and he says, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And then another month later, he came back and said, can I borrow it again? Took it home, brought it back, and he says, that's it, I want one. So that is an example of how good the product is to somebody who's willing to be open-minded. The other thing that's interesting about Daniel Hertz products is that they're designed by a professional musician who just happens to also be very knowledgeable about electronics. And so because Mark's first love was music and playing music, whatever he designs, he uses his experience of live music as the benchmark. Does it sound like the double bass that I play? Does it sound like the Sarod? Does it sound like a piano or guitar? Does it sound like my master tapes? And so that's how he compares the equipment to. And because of that, if you have a really strong affinity and knowledge of what live music sounds like, acoustic music especially, chances are you will like what his stuff sounds like. The other positive thing is that he's also designed the products, especially with the Mighty Cat technology, so that the C-Wave technology, I should say, that even mediocre compressed music sounds musical. We've done YouTube video concerts, played it back to Daniel Hertz, and people are stunned by how musical and compelling it is. So those are some of the things about Daniel Hertz. The other pros, the people in the factory are wonderful. If you call them, there's a good likelihood you'll speak with Mark, or if not, with Daniel. You can always get somebody on the other line to talk to you and answer your questions, or you can send them emails. They're really responsive that way. The other advantage is that the Maria, for example, the integrated amp, can be tuned to be optimized with your speakers. The speakers are full range. Even the little ones, they're quite full range, but the floor standing ones for sure. And they're very efficient, which means that with relatively low power, you can get pretty dynamic sound, and at high levels even. And so because of that, you will hear a lot more in your recording than with speakers that are much less sensitive or efficient. And then finally, they're beautifully made. The integrated amps are handmade by artisans in Italy, same as the speakers, and they are exquisite. They're quite luxurious looking. All right, some of the cons. Number one, they're not cheap. I wish that weren't the case, but that's what it is. The integrated amps are, what is it, 12, 13,000 US dollars. The speakers start around about $8,000 or $9,000. They're not cheap. The other con, there are a lot of old school audiophiles who like He-Man products when they spend a lot of money. You know, big power amplifiers that weigh a ton, preamplifiers with multiple chassis, you know, lots and lots of knobs and so on. And you look at a Daniel Hertz integrated amplifier and it's nothing. It weighs 15 pounds, nothing. There's not a lot of stuff that you can do with it. And so that might turn some of you off. If you enjoy swapping stuff out to try different things and so on, again, Daniel Hertz probably won't work for you. They're designed to be plug and play. There's no remote. I've mentioned this before, but it's true. For some of you who really enjoy using the remote, there's no remote. Thankfully, if you do primarily streaming, there's a good likelihood that your streamer will have a volume control, or if you use Roon's volume control is very good, so it's not a big deal. This is a question that I get quite a bit, and it's sensitive, but I'll cover it. What if Mark passes away? Or what if he has a health issue? Well, it's what the financial industry calls the key man risk. You know, what would happen to Tesla if Elon Musk had a big accident or he passed away? Same issue. The difference is that with somebody like a company like Tesla, they have an infrastructure, they have C-suite executives, they have people who work with Elon really closely and they know his vision and they basically have to execute, just like what happened with Steve Jobs when he passed away. In our industry, a lot of the companies are small. They are owner-operators. If something were to happen to the founder, there's a good likelihood the company will stop to exist. And that's unfortunate. It's just how it is in our industry. What I can say, and I thought about this for a long time before deciding to jump on Daniel Hertz. I would much rather be in a position to own and enjoy the products that Daniel Hertz manufactures than to worry about what would happen if Mark were to pass away and never had the opportunity to enjoy it. You know, it's trite, but literally life is short. I'm almost 60. There's not a whole lot of years left ahead of me. And I don't want to wait until whenever and then go, I wish I had. If you can't afford it and you like what that brand does for you, whether it's Daniel Hertz or something else, then my recommendation is do it. You don't get a second chance, at least as far as we know. So do it while you can, and if you can afford it comfortably. So for me, the benefit of enjoying using Daniel Hertz far outweighs the negatives. All right, so that covers the 5 questions for this particular video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your comments. Write them down in the comment section below. Tell me what you think. Add some of your own thoughts. This is a community. I really enjoy reading your comments, so please add them below. And thank you for watching as always, and we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.